Welcome back again for n equals 20, and what I'd like to do in n equals 20 is just carry on where I left off at n equals 18 and n equals 19 and see if I can do some custom controls in Windows as well. And this is actually the area I'm least expertise in of these custom controls. This is where it may go worse wrong. So just to remind you of where we're at, in iOS we have just done this demo where we've created a custom control at the top, which is a custom label that changes color and changes text, so you can see at the top there it's changing. And then probably more eye-catching in the middle here we've got this custom area which actually changes the drawing. So we're going to try and do that again, and let's see if we can do it in Windows. We've done it in Droid, we've done it in iOS. Can we do it in Windows? So let's come back to our solution, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new project. And this project is going to be a Windows Store project or a Windows Phone project. I'm going to choose Windows Phone. I think that's my best bet. And I'm going to choose a Windows Phone app, and it's going to be called Custom Controls.phone. Yeah, Custom Controls.phone. Hit OK. I'll choose to do a 7.0 so that I can run it in the emulator at the same time as the Droid one. If I go, sorry, not 7.0, but a 7.5 or a 7.1. And I'll change the debugger, just as I said, to that 7.1 emulator, just so that I can use it at the same time as I use my Android emulator. So now to get this running, I need to add a reference to my core project. Hopefully going to happen. There's my core, that's added. And then the next thing I need to do is I need to add the NuGet packages for MvvmCross. So let's add those. So we install them, and it's taking a little bit longer because I'm also doing a video encode in the background. Apologies about that. So this should now build, except we've got a few setup steps we haven't done. And those are in here. And so there's a little bit to change in application launching. Let's do that. inapp.xaml.cs is application launching. And then there's a little bit to change in terms of setup as well. Let's do that. Right, so that hopefully is everything we need to do. And we should at this point have a first view. Obviously it won't display the right thing, so let's go into first view and edit it somewhere here. So currently it's binding to hello. We need that to bind to shape. If you don't know what this is about, then you'll need to go back and look at the earlier examples, but there's a shape in a text box. And so now we should be able to run this guy up, so set it as a startup. If we hit F5, I hope it will go off and build, and it will start the Windows Phone emulator. So there are a few things we're going to need to do to get this going a bit further. Exactly as we did with Droid, and exactly, I think it's doing Droid right now. So I'm going to stop this, cancel, and just right click and just run this one. Okay, yeah, it was trying to deploy Droid as well. So exactly as with Droid and iOS, we're going to need to find a way to do two different types of custom control. One of them is a subclass label, which will be a text block obviously in Windows Phone. And the other one is going to be a free drawing area, which I think in Windows Phone we're going to have to do using a canvas and using XAML drawing objects like rectangles and ellipses and lines. So we'll see how this goes, so probably a path as well. It's going to be an interesting one because it's not something I do every day, certainly with Windows Phone, but we'll see how we do. So hopefully this is almost booted now, this emulator. Certainly fighting with the video encode in the background. It's almost there. So the phone's booted. It should now install our app and just run it up, and obviously it's not going to do much at the moment because we don't have very much to display. It's just thinking about deploying. Sorry about this, I should have had this pre-warmed up. I think it's deployed, there it goes. And you know, it may not deploy first time. Let's see what happens. Certainly it shouldn't bind to that shape very well. So you can see we've got circle and circle. It's bound at the very most trivial level, but we now need to do a little bit more. Cool. So we've got a working environment. Let us now try to add something a bit more exciting. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another NuGet package to this. And the NuGet package I'm going to add is the phone toolkit. It used to be called the Silverlight toolkit, or Silverlight. And I'm going to add it in. The other toolkit there, the Cymbalino one, might also be useful. But I'm going to stick with the Windows Phone toolkit because that's the one I know at the moment. So that's downloading and installing. And what I should be able to do from that Windows toolkit is, I think within the Windows toolkit there's a useful control which will enable me to do lists and to select an item from a list. So I'm going to try and use that to start with. So what it is it's a list picker. So instead of this text block, what I'm going to try and use is a list picker, and that's pulled in by ReSharper, as you can see there. And in the list picker, what I need to do is I would like to have so this has got a few properties. Let me just close that angle brackets. It's got a few properties that I want to use, and let me just see what they are. They are item source, which is a normal binding thing. So I'm going to bind that to our list in the view model. And then there must be the current item or the selected item. So selected item I'm also going to bind, and this one I'm going to bind to the shape in the view model. And I'm going to do that as mode equals two-way. So I hope that if I now just run this up, then the default template will be good enough for this to just work. Let's just see. So debug, start new. So the default template for something this big should just be kind of, it expands in place. There's another mode for the list picker where it does a full screen, but for now, hopefully, this will just work for us. The Windows Phone toolkit, I think, is based on Codeplex if you do need it. So now if I tap on this, yeah, so I get my circle, my square and my triangle, and you can see they're bound two ways. So that's our basic picker done. That's good. And now what I'd like to do is I'd like to have my custom controls. So let me again create a folder called controls. And this is, oops, not manage references. So we create a folder called controls. And in here I'm going to create my first control, which I want to be a custom text block. So add class, and I'm going to call it a shape text block, and hopefully I can inherit from text block. If not, this could be a very short demo. So there's text block, and already it's saying I cannot inherit from the sealed class text block. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to give up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this shape text block, and I'm going to go the other way of doing this, which is I'm going to use a user control. Yeah, so there's always a way around these things, and my way today is to add a new item, and my new item is a user control, and I'm going to add a shape text block. If you do come across Windows Phone programming problems in particular, it's a really good site which is Windows Phone Geek, which is now Geek Champ, and they've got a lot of helpful articles on there, as well as Code Project and the other places, but Windows Phone Geek in particular I'm really very impressed with. So, Geek Champ I think it's now called. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag into this custom control a text block, which is going to go in the grid, hopefully. Drag it there. And so this text block I'm then going to give a name, and I probably don't need to do like half of the objects that are in here, but that's cool. So this is going to be my text block. It's going to be hidden inside. And then what I can do is in the shape text block itself, I can declare my dependency property. It's a bit wordy this, but I can do it. And so what I need to do is I need to create a public dependency property. And so this is going to be think these are so this is actually going to need to be a static read-only dependency property. So you go back and you do static, and this is really quite fiddly and I don't really like it, but it's what the way you do these user controls. And so this is going to be shape text dependency property. Oh, I've lost my connection to my VM, that's okay, I'm not using it. So this is my shape text dependency property, and this is going to be a new dependency property, and I need to find out what it is. So the constructor for dependency property takes no parameters, surely not. Hang on one moment. So it's not a new dependency property I want, it's dependency property.register. So I give it a name, and its name is shape text. I give it a type, and this is the type of property that I want to use. So this is going to be a type of, and this is shape from our main view model. And then the next argument is the owner type, and that's the type of this guy. So this is a shape text block. And then property metadata, I think I don't need much in here. So let me just see, property metadata. So there is a callback that I want when it changes, so I will want that, and a default value. So let me add the default value, which is going to be shape.circle, and the callback I will add as on shape text changed. And hopefully it should allow me to create that method. And it looks like I'm also missing a semicolon at the end of that line. So that's the dependency property. And then what I need to do, oops, so I have actually got 2 semicolons there. What I need to do is for each instance of shape text block, I'm going to add the actual property itself. So to do that, and you can tell I'm not in familiar territory, but to do that I just add a normal property, but I call down to a dependency property underneath. So that's a public shape, and this is going to be called shape text, and so that's going to be the get is return, and it's returning a shape, and it's base dot get value, and you pass in the dependency property, so it's shape text dependency property. I like this less for every time I do it, but it's okay. And then we also need the set, and so the set is base dot set value, and it's the dependency property we want to set the value on shape text, and it's the value, which is the value. So that's okay, that wasn't too bad. But what we probably do want to do here is when it gets set, we probably want to change in some way. So in here we're going to call on change, on shape text change. No, it's a new method, isn't it? In here we'd like to call, you know, update. So I'll just create a new method update, just so I know that I'm drawing in there. That's cool. And then what I'd like to do is I'd like to obviously update this on shape text changed. So let's do that. So in here what I need to do, in here, actually I don't think I need to do anything in here, so I'm just going to leave this as is for now. And hopefully hopefully I don't actually need this method. This method's for other things, because hopefully it'll just hook up automatically to shape text. I could be wrong on that, but let's just see. And then with that done, we just need to do this update. And so what we're going to do when we update is we're actually going to set my text block dot text equals shape text. So we're just going to update that. And then what we'll also do, shape text dot toString. What we'll also do is we'll do a switch on the shape text. Shape text. And what we'll do is, well, depending on what it is, we'll change the color. So exactly as we did in previous samples. So my text block dot the foreground. And so this is going to be new solid color brush, and in this case it's colors dot, and we'll go for cyan for the circle. For the square we'll go for red, and for the triangle we'll go for magenta, which I think is the same options as we've gone for before. And so with that coded, unless I've made a mistake here, which is quite likely and quite possible, we'll come back to it if that's the case, With that coded, we should actually be able to take the shape text block and use it back in our first view. So back here in our first view where we have this text block, I'm going to replace that with a shape text block. And immediately you can see that ReSharp is asking me, is this the shape text block you're looking for? So I'm going to go yes. And what I'm binding is I'm not binding the text on it now. I'm binding the shape text on it, and I'm binding that to shape. So let's just see whether or not this works. Build. And I'm hopeful that if I now run this up, debug start new, then we'll have the first of our two controls written in Windows Phone. I doubt whether it's the most beautiful of demos that I've given. Okay, so it's not working at the moment, it's not hooked it up. So I think what I'll need to do is I'll need to go back and revisit that bit of code. So no panic at the moment, let's just take a look. So the code where I was stumbling before was this on shape text changed property that we need to look at. So I'm just going to take a look at that and see quite what's going on. So it's in here that we need to change things, I think. And so I'll just take a quick look at that. So it's not entirely clear. Maybe I don't even need this at all. Let me see whether or not we can remove this. If I remove that metadata and then try running it up. So this method is now not going to be used, this static one. Then is it calling through correctly to this update? Let's just see. Debug, start new. And hopefully we might see, no, we still haven't got it coming through. So let me just take another look, see if I can find it. So it definitely needs something. I've got shape text declared, I've got shape text declared. It's in the right sort of text block. See if I'm being called a call, whether it's just an invisible control. Okay, so I'm definitely not getting called at the moment through my dependency property. So something is going wrong here. Is there anything in the output that tells me a clue? Nothing at all. So what is it that this guy is doing? Just check my UI for my shape text block. Here I've got a text block and that should be filling the area. Seem to be reasonable. So what is it that it's being annoyed about? Let me just take another look. There must be a way through here somewhere. Something obvious that I'm missing. So I think what it must be is that I need to understand better how to use this change handler. So let me go back to having a change handler. And then what I'll have to do is I will have to do d dot, is there an owner or something on here? No. E dot, what can I get here? So this will give me the value, and then I need to find out how to actually get to the dependency object itself. Now let me just take a look again. So what I need to do, just think this through. So I'm still not entirely sure what I'm doing here, but I think what I need to do is I think I need to take hold of the dependency object, which will actually be the owner. And so it should actually be a shape text block. And then I think what I need to do is on this, I should be able to call this update method. And I think that means that I should be able to ignore this one here, which was always wrong. And then I should be able to call through. So you can see I'm by no means an expert in this area. And let me see whether or not this works, or whether I'm still barking up the wrong tree. And let's push this through. And hopefully, let's see. No, I still have nothing coming through. Ah, yes I do. Okay, so now it does update when it gets called. And so now hopefully we do at least have some properties coming through. So there is a, not the best demo in the world, but you can see how you can change these dependency properties. And the reason you use dependency properties is so you then can do XAML to XAML binding if you want to. You could just about otherwise have got away with it without doing dependency properties, just using normal CLR properties. But hopefully you can see, we have done a custom binding there, even if it is quite a techie way of doing it. Right, So sorry that took a bit longer than it should have done. Now let's try our second control. And again, we can't really do this control without doing another user object. We don't really get raw access. So what I'm going to do is add another user control, and this one's going to be the shape control, user control. And what I'm going to do in this shape control, and again I stand the risk of getting into trouble here, but I'm going to try and use a canvas. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the canvas's height and width to be 200. And if I'm lucky, that will allow me to actually, oh, let's do 300 so it's a bit bigger. And if I'm lucky, this will allow me to be able to draw onto this canvas. So this canvas here is going to be called the canvas. And let's see whether or not we manage to draw to it. So in the shape control, what I'd like to do is very similar to what I did with the shape text block. Except obviously I'd quite like it to have worked a bit quicker. So let me copy this shape again. Copy this dependency object. And just hopefully edit it a slightly more efficiently, shall we say. So I'm going to pull in the shape namespace. And then this property is going to be called shape. I'll call it the shape because that's what we called it before. And this is going to be in my shape control. And this is going to be called on shape changed, on the shape changed maybe, just to keep it consistent. So this is called on the shape changed. And obviously here we're going to go to shape control.update. And we've got here shape the shape. And we've got one final name change to make, which is this guy is going to change to the shape dependency property. So let's just see, we've then just got update to do, so let's add the update method, private void update. And what I'm going to do here is I need to switch on what the shape is. So let's try that, switch on the shape. And I'll generate those switch labels. Before I start, what I'd like to do is I'd like to canvas.children. So hang on, what was it called? The canvas .children.clear. So we're going to get rid of all existing children on our canvas. And then what I'd like to do is I'd like to add in the necessary circles, etc. So let's give this a go. This is going to be the canvas .children.add. And I'd like to add a new, and this is going to be an ellipse. And the ellipse, I'd quite like to have a fill, which is going to be a new solid color brush. And this is from colors.cyan for this one. And I'd probably like it to fill, so where is the width is going to be 200 and height is going to be 200. And hopefully that should just fill our entire area. For the square, I'm going to add a new, and it's not going to be an ellipse, it's going to be a rectangle. So let's see whether we can add this rectangle. And this is going to be red. So hopefully it will just work. And for the triangle, we're probably going to need to do something more complicated. So let's see if I can create a path equals new path dot, so somewhere in path must be the points. Path geometry I think I might need to create. Geom. So again, you would look these things up, you don't need to commit this stuff to memory, and clearly I haven't, so that's a good job. So the geometry dot, to see if there's a, okay, so I'll need to add some points to this geometry in order to get it working, and that'll just create the corners of our triangle. So again, I'm just struggling to remember what this sequence is. So I don't think I'm in the right place there. Let me just see, can I create a polygon instead? There's a new polygon. Oh, okay, so I can create a polygon instead. and that might be easier. So let me see if I can do that. Poly.points. Okay, now we're talking. Equals new point collection. And how do I initialize the point collection? Okay, so I can add a series of points here. This is perfect. So I can add a point, and so this one I'm going to just add at 100, 0, and then I can add another point which is going to be at 0, 200, and I can add a final point which is going to be at 200, 200, and I hope that's good enough for a polygon. So I'm going to get rid of the path. I'm going to get rid of this. Obviously there are plenty of ways of doing this, and I probably am doing it the wrong way, but that's cool. And the fill of this polygon I'd like to make into a solid color brush, and I think this one's magenta is what we've been doing. So if I'm lucky, I'll do this, colors.magenta. And so that's our polygon, and then what I need to do is I need to add that to the canvas as well. That add. And obviously there are, you know, better bits of code than this. I definitely am not putting this down as the way to do this control in Windows Phone or in Windows 8. Take a look around, see how to do it, you know, talk to some people on Stack Overflow or on Phone Geek or something like that, because I think that there might be better ways. But having said that, hopefully I can now do controls, colon, and so this is going to be the shape control, and what we're going to bind on this is the shape, and we're binding it to the shape on the view model. And if we are really lucky, and I haven't messed up too much, then this might even run, and we'll have it on all three platforms, or the three platforms we're going to show. And again, you know, I can apologize a few times for getting this wrong, and clearly it's not drawing first time. But let's just do this. If we change to a square, we get a square. If we change to a triangle, we do get a triangle. If we change to a circle, we get a circle. So you can see here how you know, it's different on Windows than it was on iPhone and Android, but you can do these custom controls if you need to. And clearly, you know, I wouldn't listen too heavily to my advice about how to do custom controls on Windows, but hopefully that gives you a quick introduction into doing it on this third platform. We've got it there, we've got it on iOS, we've got it on Android. I hope that kind of made sense to people. Please, 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 please do not take this dependency property code from me. Take a look to people who know what they're talking about. But that hopefully brings custom controls to an end, and I'll go and talk about something else tomorrow. Cool, thank you very much for listening. Sorry I got some things wrong.